Hey everybody, Dustin DePierre here, columnist Jeremy Price. Out here at Banker's Life, we stole the actual podium where Tom Crean was like an hour ago or hour and a half ago. It took me a long time to write. I don't know. Anyway, Indiana falls 79-72 in this one, and a pretty significant loss. So just simply for the fact that there aren't a lot of Indiana did not schedule itself a lot of opportunities for statement wins in the non-conference schedule, and they pretty much don't get one. I mean, if you count Washington, maybe, but that's a 4-4 team, and I don't know if that's anyone that anybody thinks is an NCAA team. This was one of their better chances. It was a pretty good game, actually, but Indiana, just couldn't really get over the hump. Fell behind 13 points in the first half. Had a bunch of opportunities to take control in the second half. Didn't, and they walk away with a loss in this one.
Yeah, Indiana really. It seemed like it just took them too long to get into this game. Really, I thought late in the first half they finally started showing some grit and some determination. But by then they were in a 13-point hole, and of course they battled back. But just too many things went wrong today for them to overcome, basically.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of different ways we could look at this. I guess Tom Crean's thing was we're good when we get the ball to the rim and when we draw a lot of fouls. They didn't draw a lot of fouls. I think Notre Dame only committed 16. Indiana was at the foul line, I think, 16 times. They were 13 for 16 at the line, so they took advantage of the opportunities when they got there, but they didn't get there much. Too many jump shots, took 23 pointers, which is not what you want to see from an Indiana team. And a lot of guys just didn't get, just were kind of forced out of their comfort zones a little bit. Noah Vonleh had what I would say is his toughest game. He had 8 points and 6 rebounds, so that's certainly better than the Connecticut game. But taking that one sort of out of as an outlier, as a game he only played in 10 minutes, this is probably his worst overall performance. Garrick Sherman just had his way with him. Basically, 60. I think he had 16 points, 6 for 7 shooting, and they didn't have a problem getting the ball inside. Had some other lost guys in transition, left shooters outside. It could have been a lot worse from outside. Notre Dame had a lot of good looks. Ended up only 6 for 18 from 3, but probably should have been a lot worse with some of the looks they got. Turnovers at the wrong times. I think they were. I thought they were a little bit just too quick with it in the last couple of minutes when they actually had a chance. Yogi Ferrell didn't give the ball up on 2 back-to-back possessions, just took a quick 3 after they'd fall behind 74-69. I didn't know that his drive was the best. It wasn't a horrible idea, but it could have been better. He never even passed the ball. No. So there was just a lot that wasn't just particularly good for these guys.
No, we'll stay on that one first before we digress. Mm-hmm. Yogi's carrying a lot of weight for this team, and he's doing a good job of it. But
generally,
late in games, I really don't care for the decision-making process there. He's sometimes trying to do too much, and he's got to be willing to share some of that responsibility with his teammates and trust them that the ball movement and whatnot will find its way back to him
when it's there
in the right position, rather than trying to force something for himself.
Yeah, I mean, he basically just took the ball at the rim twice. Once just sort of got rebuffed, took it back up, took a high ball screen from Will Sheehy, attacked the rim, and just found the 6'11" guy when he got there, basically. So it wasn't the most genius thing, and it was a situation where they needed a bucket. And it's just find out what's going to be there, move it around a little bit, get the ball in a couple other people's hands, see if anybody can get a look. It's 2 points. If you get there, you got a tie ball game. You change the dynamic of the game. He takes one sort of bull-headed drive to the rim, and that's it. You lose your chance. You get the shot blocked. I mean, even from watching on TV, I can't tell if there should have been a foul or not. Obviously, it helps you to put yourself in a position you can get fouled, but also you're going up against 6'11". You're not always going to get that call, especially late in the game. Next drive, Notre Dame scores. He takes a quick 3 on the next one, and by that point, that's pretty much all she wrote.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. But like we said, there's a lot of ways you can dissect this one. You have to put a lot of responsibility, I think, on the freshmen today, just because as a whole that group was pretty much a no-show.
Yeah.
I mean, you got from the 5 freshmen that played today, you got 14 points and 14 rebounds out of them. I mean, that's normally Noah Vonleh by himself.
Yeah.
And that's all you got from that quintet combined.
Yeah. Crean said it repeatedly in the press conference that the lights were a little bit too bright for some of the guys today. And you could see that. I mean, Luke Fisher had a tough time. 0 for 3 had a tough time finishing. I thought Stan Robinson played really well. I thought that was not He played the best out of all of them, out of all the guys.
Yeah.
In terms of what their sort of ceiling is, in terms of what you expect from him, I thought you got more out of Stan, or at least as much out of Stan that you usually get. Vonleh was able to throw a couple down, was 4 for 5 from the field, but again, defensively, he was just getting eaten up. Whether it was Sherman or Zach August or Tom Knight or any of those three guys, anybody who got the ball in the low block had a pretty easy time scoring. Devin Davis just wasn't there very long. I didn't think he played bad, honestly, when he was out there. But
no, he didn't play a lot. But
just,
he's a good example. He didn't play a lot of minutes, didn't do a lot of things. You would think not a lot to do wrong, but he was involved in one of the most pivotal plays of the game. That three-pointer that Notre Dame hit at the end of the half.
Yeah.
He dove to the block with Sherman and essentially double-teamed with Perea Sherman while Grant popped to the corner wide open for that three. And
you're right. That was a pretty key three. Yeah. They managed to erase that lead pretty fast. But, it knocks you back a little bit. Instead of taking the lead early on in the first half, you're just clawing back again. And you sort of wasted some energy momentum doing that. And
maybe if you don't give that up, maybe Indiana takes the lead in the second half. And it seemed like one of those games where if Indiana could have ever gotten over the hump and gotten the lead, maybe things would have been different. But
maybe. I don't think – the one thing that wasn't going to happen is they weren't going to break Notre Dame. And you did see some of the difference in terms of the experience as you saw Grant, Atkins, Connaughton, even Demetrius Jackson's just a tough kid, even as a freshman. But, Sherman, Connaughton – Grant, Atkins, those guys weren't giving up today. They were going to keep coming. Indiana was going to have to put a pretty big gap in it for those guys to fade away, I think. They did keep making plays. They did keep making shots, and you could just see the difference in sort of confidence and belief that they were going to get this done. There was a significant difference there between, what Notre Dame had in that regard and what Indiana had in that regard.
Yeah, they had a clear sense of urgency, largely in part due to their loss to North Dakota State.
Yeah, no, they were not happy about that.
They felt like this was a game they couldn't afford to lose, especially on the heels of that one. And this is a game that I don't know that IU could afford to lose. It's not a bad loss. It's not an
that
kind of thing,
loss.
but it's a missed opportunity.
It's a missed opportunity. It just doesn't bode well, I think, is sort of the biggest thing. Is you look at it and say, okay, well, I think, Indiana was probably looking at this game and saying, okay, if you beat this game, then you got to go into the Big Ten. Not necessarily the players themselves, but more kind of the fans and just how they look at it. You have to think, all right, well, we're going to be able to beat teams like Illinois and Purdue and basically just anybody middle to back of the pack in the Big Ten, and we're going to be able to at least compete with, sort of the top of the pack teams at least going to be there. So they're going to be just sort of in the mix with the Iowas and teams like that. You don't know if they're ready to beat a Wisconsin or an Ohio State or a Michigan State, but sort of those other teams you feel like they'd have a shot most nights. You lose this game and you're just like, okay, well, where is this team really going to stand when it gets in there? Is it going to be a middle of the pack team? Is it going to be worse than that? Is this an NCAA tournament team? Is it an NIT team? This certainly was a game that you'd like to have in March to be able to point back at and say, okay, especially if Notre Dame, and I think Notre Dame's got a chance to be pretty good. Not great. I don't think they're going to win the ACC. But you could see them being top 4, top 5, top 6, somewhere in that regard, and that looks like a pretty nice win if Indiana has that on the resume going into March. But that's just one more that they don't have.
Yeah, and the other thing is you kind of wonder from this where do things go from here?
Yeah.
The start of the Big Ten season is not going to be easy. You start
at Illinois, then Michigan State at home,
and then I think you go to Penn State, and then Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
1-3 is not out of the question.
Right.
Even 0-4, you wonder. This team's got to learn to win on the road. Something they
it does.
haven't done yet.
Yeah, so. Obviously the Bryce Jordan Center is not the most imposing road environment.
But I went to school there. I've seen a few of those games. That's what makes it challenging, though, because it can be just sort of a dead, flat atmosphere, and it can be very infectious.
Right, that, but also, they're going to play. It's going to be a team it's not like this Notre Dame team. This Notre Dame team is won, but it's veteran based. Penn State's got Tim Frazier and DJ Newell.
Backcourt, yeah.
Right, so and then you'll play in Illinois that's got Ravonte Rice. They're pretty young as well, but they've got a couple guys, transfers that have been around and stuff like that. Certainly Michigan State's got veteran guys, so it's like, okay, how is this team going to do? Is this how it's going to be against veteran guys? Like what Notre Dame had with Atkins and Grant and Sherman and that group is, are you always going to see this gap, this difference? When is the athleticism going to overcome that, or is it? Is the gap too much when it comes to experience and just ability to win late, to rely on something late in games?
Yeah, I think this team's going to get there. The question is, how long does it take to get
right.
there?
And
is the hole dug too deep by the time it does get there?
Right.
As far as the postseason and NCAA tournament and those kind of things, because depending on how the Big Ten season goes, I think they're going to probably win a game or two that you wouldn't think, knock off
Yeah, no, I do
one
too.
of the big boys,
Yeah.
so to speak. But they're probably going to lose a game or two that you wouldn't think as well. And so, without a marquee non-conference win, depending on how the Big Ten goes, it's going to be kind of iffy when it comes to NCAA tournament, or maybe they're in good shape for the tournament, but then the seeds may not be that good.
Yeah, you might have to go play somebody that you're just not going to get.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's going to be interesting. Just whatever direction this goes. I'm interested to see how, obviously they weren't perfect, but Will Sheehy and Evan Gordon were the guys that kept him in this, I thought, tonight. Gordon certainly finishes 3 for 11, so it's not like he was perfect, and Sheehy had 5 turnovers, so he wasn't either. But I wonder if it's, if this game didn't suggest that it's time to put more in their hands and maybe not a lot less than Yogi's, but a little less, but at least kind of hold these guys up a little bit, put them in more positions, to lead. Maybe make Gordon a starter or something like that. I don't know. I mean, it seemed like those were the guys that were sort of carrying them today, and not that it's always been like that. He certainly had not shot well before today, shot great today. But I don't know. I think maybe certainly they need more from those guys, but I think this was at least a step in that direction, and maybe more has to be given to them on some level.
And those were the two guys that came to the post-game press conference. Those were the two guys that represented this team. And so I think the challenge...
My God, were they unhappy.
Yeah. And
Will wanted to kill us all. Every single one of us.
More than usual.
Yeah. That's...
But I think the challenge for these guys is, can they bring the rest of the team with them? Obviously,
exactly.
Obviously, since the Syracuse game, I think both of them have tried to elevate their game and their leadership and so on, but they've got to bring the rest of those guys with them. You can't just do it all by yourself. And today that was kind of the whole disconnect. You had, basically Gordon, Sheehy, and at times maybe Yogi, and it was pretty much those three, and that was it.
Yeah, no more or less.
And Indiana's going to need 6, 7, 8 guys, not 2 or 3.
Yeah. No, I mean, I feel like just as we've gone through this whole discussion, we're just sort of keep landing on, man, there's a lot that's got to get fixed. And I'm not even sure what direction it's got to go. But anyway, so that's it. It's finals week.
I don't think we'll learn much from Kennesaw State and Nicholls State.
No. So, yeah, that'll be not that interesting. But anyway, we'll see you from Assembly Hall in a week. Thanks, guys.
Yep.